So we got the scouting combines kicking off next week in Indianapolis. A lot of draft stuff, and then also, a couple weeks from today, free agency's gonna open up as well. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Giants Brawl podcast, brought to you by the Brawl Network. I finally got my Brawl Network T-shirt, which if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm repping right now. You can follow me on Twitter at Usaid Koshal. Follow Mike Trainer on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT, and then follow the beat writer too, Anthony Rivardo, on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Guys, what is going on?
Not much. I mean, I'm pretty excited for the scouting combine, ready to dive into a few of our favorite prospects and discuss the Giants.
Yeah, I can't wait to get you guys' insights, man. I'm definitely interested. I don't know that much about all these guys coming out, but I got guys that I know a little bit about, so I'm interested to hear your aspects.
Yeah, anyway, so we figured let's just jump on a podcast every Tuesday night and talk Giants because there's always something Giants really to talk about. But I was in New York this past weekend, so we'll get into a funny story later on in the show. But okay, so let's get into it. Scouting combine. It's gonna be interesting because they're picking fourth overall. And there's a million different ways the board could fall. Like, you could look up all of a sudden and Anthony, like you've kind of been pounding the table for your own scenario of Chase Young potentially being there at 4 and falling to the Giants. If you do have quarterbacks that go 1, 2, 3, I know, Mike, you are so content with Gettleman making a big splash move at fourth overall, and I think that's what's gonna happen. But who are some of the guys? And Mike, I'll start with you. Who are you looking for at the combine?
At the combine, I tell you, all offensive tackles for me. The Giants is definitely a need. And, we got great value with the offensive tackles, especially in this draft, man. You could get them probably the first 4 or 5 rounds. I mean, that's how deep they are. But, I'm going with Austin Jackson, the offensive tackle from USC. He's a little bit on the light side. He's only 305. I mean, 305 for most people is gigantic. But when you talk about NFL tackles, yeah, I think you got, when you talk about hog mollies too with Gettleman, he wants guys a little bit bigger than that. But he had a good, good few years at, USC. I think he played well. In that offense too, you need to stay back in pass protection a lot, and I think he did pretty well with that. Um, I'll go down the list, guys. Too. Trey Adams from the offensive tackle from Washington. He originally got hurt in 2017 with an ACL, but these fat fucks, they don't need ACLs. You know what I mean? So they can stay in there and hold their own. He's a big dude. He's like 335. He came back in his senior year and he proved himself. He was solid. He was good. And then the next guy is Prince Tega Wanahago. And the Giants, how they love those kind of crazy names, man. Like OCU Manura, they go down the line. Pierre Paul, he's another guy, a little bit on the light side. He's only like 310, but he played pretty well in Auburn too.
Yeah, what's interesting about him is, so I was just looking up basic information about him just because when I do the scouting process every single year, I try to do it like NFL teams do, in the sense that they want to get all the information they can on these guys. So this dude, he's actually the prince of some tribe in Nigeria, and I guess the way it works is he'll be the king or the chief or whatever one day. So you draft this guy, Dave Gettleman, you're getting a king on the team.
I want another Prince, man. We have Prince of Makamua for a while. Let's get another Prince on there.
Yeah, for real. So, I mean, so here's the thing, right? And Anthony, I'll let you go ahead and do yours next before we kind of break your guys' prospects down.
Yeah, so I'm also looking at offensive tackles. I don't know if the Giants are going to draft these guys at 4, or if they trade back, or if somehow one of them falls to the second round with a bad combine, maybe. But these two tackles that I'm looking at, I think, are going to have huge combines. I mean, first you go with Mackay, maybe Mekhi. We're not sure how to say his name, Becton out of Louisville. I mean, he's got a 7-foot wingspan. He's 6'7", 369 pounds, which is 2 of me put together and then some. And, he's been shooting up draft boards. We've seen him get mocked as high as number 4, but also as low as in the second round earlier in the process. So, and then I'm also looking at Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. I know Jordan Reed was a big fan of Tristan Wirfs when he was on our podcast a couple weeks ago. And I mean, he's a fast guy. He has an astonishing 35-inch vertical leap. He's 6'5", 322 pounds, and he recorded 4 reps of 450 pounds last year on the hang clean, which is a record over at Iowa. So those two offensive tackles, I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. Uh, Tristan Wirfs is great in pass protection. And then outside of the offensive tackles, since we've touched on 5 of them now, I'm also going to be watching Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. He might break the 40 record. At his junior pro day last year, he had a time of 4.25 seconds. When he ran track, he set the 7A state record for the 100 meters at 10.58 seconds. He could literally be an Olympic track runner. I mean, the dude's one of the fastest people on the planet. He might break that record this year, and if the Giants do trade back or even trade up into the late first round, middle first rounds, Henry Ruggs is definitely an option that they should look at because that's a game breaker right there. I mean, that's the next Tyreek Hill possibly.
I will say this regarding Henry Ruggs. So he's drawn tons of comparisons. I get people look at him because of his speed, be like, yeah, he is Tyreek Hill. And I agree with that comparison because I think it's a consensus at this point that he is Tyreek Hill 2.0. But I'm kind of wary because like our own, we got another guy on the network, Joe Gaithier. He's on the Fantasy Football Brawl. And he's credentialed at the University of Alabama, and he covers them. And for something, he was telling me like a couple weeks ago, he's like, yeah, Henry Ruggs kind of comes off as soft. So like, I'm wary of that Henry Ruggs pick because like, would he add another element to what we already expect to be is going to be a versatile offense? I think that you add the speed of Ruggs, you're making Darius Slayton more expendable, and you're making Evan Ingram more expendable too, right? And then Caden Smith, those two tight ends, right? But I think overall, right, for just speaking with Ruggs, because you talked about potentially trading back up into the first round to get him, I think that you don't take him at 4 because it's a reach. You got to trade back into the latter half of the top 10, preferably like the 8th overall pick, the 9th overall pick, or even like top 15, right? And then you draft him because drafting at 4, if you're going to draft a wide receiver at 4th overall, you got to go CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's probably the guy too, man. Maybe it might be a little bit of reach, like you said, but I kind of don't see that happening, guys. I see like in the first round, I see the Giants like trading back a little bit and hopefully get my guy Simmons if he's there. And then if you get, another second round pick, and like Ant said, maybe take those 2 second rounds, trade up into the first round again and get an offensive tackle like you mentioned. But my guys, they're rated to go like first, second, and third round. So if you keep those 2 second round draft picks, that might be 2 offensive tackles you get there starting plus Simmons, and that's the way I would love for the Giants to go. I don't think we need another wide receiver playmaker. I think we got the guys.
I agree. I would love for them to go that way too. And I'm not necessarily looking for Henry Ruggs to become a Giant. I don't think there's any chance that he actually ends up becoming a Giant. I'm just excited to watch him at the Combine. I just want to watch the dude run like lightning. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. But I've seen him go pretty late in a few mock drafts. I don't know how it's a mock draft. It's a crapshoot. People are just guessing. But I've seen him in the 20s. So I was saying maybe if they do trade far back or if they do end up with a second round pick and they want to trade back into the first round for him, then he could maybe be an option. But I don't really think he's an option for the Giants necessarily. I'm just excited to watch the man run is all.
Right.
Yeah, you guys mentioned your guys, just the ones that you're going to be looking for at the Scouting Combine. Just for me personally, so I'm going to go with, safe guys on the defensive side of the ball and then a wide receiver. So I'm going to go with Kyle Duggar from Lenoir-Rhyne. He's a small school safety that really blew up at the Senior Bowl. And I think people are legitimately making the argument right now that you could see Kyle Duggar be like one of the first guys drafted or one of the first safeties off the board because he's a safety, but he tackles like a linebacker. And I think you look at that, I mean, just watching some of the film, he's not like a carbon copy of a guy like Derwin James, for example, or someone like Cam Chancellor or Earl Thomas, but like with a couple years of development, I think that he can certainly like get up to that kind of elite impact level. And then we've seen just sticking with Kyle Duggar, we've seen the impact that having like an impact safety on the back end does for a defense, because if an offense cracks the first line, they crack the second line, their second level, which is linebackers. If you have that safety there, I mean, teams are going to be scared to throw in that safety's direction. I mean, how many times have we seen like an elite safety or just a safety be found like in the mid rounds, like Eddie Jackson of the Chicago Bears, for example, and he's all of a sudden risen to like be one of the best, if not the best safety in the game. So like Kyle Duggar is a guy that I'm really excited to see in Indy next week. Another guy just because of his playmaking abilities, Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver from Colorado. I mean, you guys know Cordero Patterson, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so people compare him to like Cordero Patterson. And I think like let's just say in the scenario you're Gettleman and you do draft Laviska Shenault. Like I think you could kind of use him in like that Hakeem Nicks type role that Nicks was used in for so many years. And we all know I think like when I go back and I watch Hakeem Nicks now, it's very clear that like so guys like him and Victor Cruz were like the sparks for this offense.
100%. Oh, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I swear those guys are great, dude. Like I would turn back the clock just to see Victor do the salsa one more time in at MetLife.
God, don't get me started, man. Please, go on with your guys, man.
And then yeah, so third guy that I'm looking at also blew up at the Senior Bowl is going to be Josh Uche from Michigan. I think like so when you look at this class, it's basically like Chase Young. And then everyone else when it comes to the edge rushers, right? And people are kind of split on like who's the number 2 guy because you have AJ Epinesa, you've got Epinesa from Iowa, you have Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State. Then there's guys like Curtis Weaver from Boise State and Julian Okarwa, I can't say his last name, from Notre Dame. So I think if and then there's Uchi, and I think that like he legitimately has a chance to rise because this is a guy that like 5 or 6 months ago we weren't even talking about. And then all of a sudden, touchdowns, arrives in Mobile at the Senior Bowl and just absolutely blows things up.
It's true. I would love that. Now you guys got me kind of hyped to actually want to watch this now. I hate watching these whole things, but yeah, it's I don't know. I can't. Well, I'll try to watch it. I'll try to do you guys a favor, try to watch it to get some like insight, but it's probably not gonna work, man.
Oh my! I don't even. Here's the thing. Look, I do not watch the scouting combine because I'm not gonna sit there for hours and hours and hours and basically like measure, like time these guys running the 40. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. What I'll do is I'll just go on like NFL.com the day after and just read all the measurables because at the end of the day, like that's what matters because it's like the scouting combine. It's one of the most crucial parts of the draft process because like these measurables, I mean, they're going to begin to determine like who could play where in the NFL, just in terms of like you're going to have an offensive lineman or a guy that originally played offensive lineman in college that some teams may decide like, or offensive tackle in college, I'm sorry, that some teams may say, yeah, we're going to move this guy inside just because he does not have a, the arm length just not long enough and he's just better suited to fit at guard as a result.
That's what New England does all the time. They do that with their guys. So like they trade, they switch guys to like tight end position. I think, maybe that's hopefully what we got in Judge, where he actually judges these players and realizes what they do best. And maybe we do got a good coach in here, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. And I'll probably watch at least a little bit of the scouting combine, but usually what I do is I'll just take a few names, like the names that I mentioned earlier, and then of course the big ones like Isaiah Simmons, Chase Young. I'll just watch, and when I hear or see their names come on the TV, then I'll pay attention. But usually I'm just like on my phone or laptop doing something else, maybe writing some articles, and then if I see Chase Young is up, I'll look up, I'll watch him. So I think that's usually the best way to go. If you're literally watching every single prospect, it's pretty mind-numbing and boring. You definitely have to get paid to do it. So I don't even know how NFL Network airs it for so long and takes up all that time, but they do, and I guess they make pretty good money because I'm sure there's tons of people who just leave it on in the background, gives them good ratings just like I do.
Exactly what I do.
Yeah, speaking of which, did you win your basketball game last week? Because I know you lost like the week prior, right?
All right. So we didn't win. We only had 4 people show up. But I did drop 30 points, and that's not a joke. That's a career high for me. I had 30. So I'm super hyped about that, but we lost by 20. But it was 4-on-5. It was 4-on-5.
Like Anthony, man. Like, oh, it's all about me. As long as I get my 30 points, we can lose by 80. I don't give.
No. It's never like that. I'm always a team guy, but we only had 4 players, and they had this guy who was like a D1 transfer, and he's playing in an intramural league.
What?
We were done. We were done once we stepped on the court. It was over. So I was just out there trying to get buckets, and I did. I did. I had that big guy, a D1 transfer, guarding me a few times, got some points on him. I even think I got an and one on him, so I'm happy. Not to flex too hard, but
You should have flown me down, man. I could have came down there and dropped another 30 for you, man.
Oh yeah.
Come on, guys.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for real.
Anybody out there wants to challenge us 3-on-3 right now?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
speaking of which, so if you're in the, if you're listening to this right now, obviously, hit us up in the DMs because we are looking for writers to add to our website, which is going to be launching on March 1st. So, check that out. Or contact me at Usaid Kosho on Twitter. Or if you just want to play us in basketball, like, I don't know, we'll figure out a way to like get to New York and I don't know, play it in like Mike's driveway or whatever, but we'll still win regardless.
Hey, listen, you guys, you know where I shoot my layups from?
From where?
The 3-point line. I make buckets all day, fellas. Man, you can't guard me.
Yes, sir.
Let's hopefully Carmelo Anthony's listening to this, man. Come guard me.
Okay, you mentioned Carmelo Anthony, right? And it's so weird because this is a Giants podcast, right? And you're wearing a Knicks hat, Mike, by the way.
Yes.
But I swear the Knicks totally ruined Carmelo because now that I think of it, had they done a better job surrounding a team around him and had a competent coaching staff, they could have freaking been something.
It was pretty rough to watch his few years. I mean, he had a couple good years when he had Stat around him, a couple other guys playing well. Chauncey Billups kind of gave him the ball when he needed to, and then when he wasn't on fire, kind of gave it to other people. He's a great point guard to have. But yeah, Carmelo, man, I liked him, but he's a little bit of a ball hog, tough to play with. Imagine running up and down the court and you never touching the ball because Melo's shooting it all the time. It was a lot of games like that.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think that when Melo was on the Knicks, it was kind of just bad timing. That when they finally got the pieces and they could have been something, we also had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh on the same team in the same conference. So no one was ever really going anywhere. Once you had to go up against that, that was about it. And I am a Heat fan, so I'm not complaining. I'm quite happy about the way things went when LeBron was in Miami. We got 2 of them, so.
Lucky you, man.
Like I just said, I'm pretty sure Anthony was like Carmelo dropping 30 points because he was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to take the damn ball and take this thing over. I guarantee you that's what he did.
He had the Baba mentality.
A little bit, but we had 4 people. I was the only one with the stamina that could just keep going and scoring. So they were like, just take it. I can't run anymore. I was like, let's do it. But Melo's got a mid range. I wasn't really like that, man. I hit 3 threes, and then everything else was just in the paint. I was in there, double clutch, jelly fam. I don't know. You guys might not know what that is, but I was a beast in the paint. Is basically the gist of it. My Euro steps, the floaters, all of them.
Holy shit! Break out all.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, guys, I saw a report this past. I think it was last week or something, right? We were talking about a couple new teams in the NFL potentially getting new uniforms, and I think there were 2 NFC teams on there, and it got me thinking the Giants have had some pretty cool uniforms in the past, right? But what would it look like, if they kind of changed the uniform combinations up?
I want that NY on the helmet to go. I want it to say Giants, like how it did in the 80s. With the line underneath. That Color Rush uniform was fantastic. The only thing I probably would have changed out of the Color Rush is maybe instead of the all white with the blue, I would go black and blue. I thought that would be pretty nice to have in MetLife, maybe get a little anger in the Giants if they wear those kind of uniforms. And I'm just glad they got rid of those. Remember those old red jerseys back in the day they had?
Oh my God. Those were disgusting. Dude, those were disgusting because they just were not visually appealing to the eye. You'd be like, all right, what am I watching? And it's not like it was this is my opinion, right? It's not like it was a red that the Arizona Cardinals, for example. It was this reddish orange color that just made you want to puke every time. Kind of like the red that's on Anthony's shirt right now.
We're big blue. We're not big red. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, we're not Clifford, not Big Red Dog, but I do wish that they use more red though. If they are gonna update the uniforms, some like the Color Rush has the blue and the red on it on the numbers. Like we can get like your shirt right now, Mike. It's got the blue NY with the red around it, and I like that. I think we should use the red more because our jerseys right now are just blue with white numbers. We should have some sort of red on there. I think at least somewhere. And if they do end up updating the jerseys. I hope that they get the framed numbers where it's got red around it, white inside of it. I think that's a clean look. I wouldn't mind if they go back to the Giants on the side of the helmet. I mean, that's cool. I personally love the NY though. So I'd be a little upset to see that go. But I think what they really need to do is get the white face masks. I think that makes the helmets pop so much more. I mean, when we wear gray, yeah, whatever. But when they wear the color rush and they got the white face mask, I think that's what really makes that helmet look better. I mean, it pops, it looks so clean and new, and yeah, I think that's what they got to do. Go with the white face mask at least.
The only red I want to see is on other people's jerseys, and that's blood.
Yes, sir.
Killing these guys.
So like, okay, I think what needs to happen is it's like you gotta change up. So regarding the helmets, right? You guys have seen like certain teams, like the Bears did this past year, where they had like the 1936 throwbacks or whatever, and they wore those, and those look really sick. Like probably the sickest alternate uniforms in the NFL. I think like what you got to do is you got to bring back the Giants on the side of the helmet, just as like a third alternate logo, and this way you can still throw it on like all your merchandise, and even if you as the team you do decide to wear it like 2 or 3 times a year. Just start like a tradition. Like if I'm Joe Judge right now, I want to bring those back, and I'm starting a tradition where it's like, okay, every time we play in a primetime game, whether it's home or away, like that's the uniform we're wearing, because that would look sick then. Like the NY is cool with like the shiny blue helmet, but just having the Giants with like that color on there would look much better.
Yeah, that would look sick. Love to see that.
Yeah, like I said, the main thing for me, I want a white face mask, but I would like it if they did wear the color rush more often. It's once a year now, I think. Let's make that like 3 times a year. Why not? I know there's other teams in the league that wear the color rush more than once. You know, let's just have some variety. Maybe even make that the full-time away uniform. But then I feel like you got to change the full-time home uniform too. I really wouldn't hate to see them just do a complete new rebranding. I mean, we're kind of entering a new era. The last 16 years have been Eli Manning, and now we're switching to Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Joe Judge. It's a whole new team. So if they ever do want to switch up the entire look of the Giants, I'd say now is the time, and they should definitely think about it. You know, maybe just get some new jerseys. Like I love the Giants classic, the blue with the white, because we won Super Bowls with the white and the red, and so like I've got great memories when I look at these uniforms, but maybe it is time for a change. Let's make some new memories in a new era with some new colors and uniforms, same colors, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like you gotta rebrand, like not every every couple of years you gotta introduce like something new, or just like some new hoodie, even if you're not gonna rebrand, like introduce some like new hoodie or something that's got like New York Football Giants or whatever, and then like the logo in the middle written. Because when you see some of these coaches on Sunday, I'm not even gonna lie, man, I hate watching a lot of these teams, but you see some of the stuff that they're wearing on the sideline. I'm like, yo, that would actually be a pretty sick design to potentially get. Like the NY is cool, but gotta get some new merchandise out.
Absolutely, man. They definitely need something more like more traditional, but like you kind of want that old school feel, like especially with Judge coming in there. You're like, let's get some old school clothing, old school material, old school jackets. Like let's bring that toughness back.
Yeah, like I said, main thing for me, white face masks. They're so clean. I just think they look so good. I'm gonna start pounding the table on that. Like the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, man, I need to see more of those white face masks. Those are just so nice.
We'll fund me, AJ. We'll pay the Giants, so we'll give them all fucking white face masks.
Yeah, speaking of which, right? So last offseason, Anthony was pounding the table for Shaq Barrett. This offseason, he's pounding it for his crazy Chase Young scenario, and the new uniforms, right? So we gotta hope like one of those three happens. But moving on, did you guys see that report that Joe Burrow was like, "Yeah, I've got leverage when it comes to the first overall pick," and like another first overall pick supposedly told him that. Now I saw a rumor. I'm pretty sure it was when I was scrolling through our Twitter account, which you can follow us at Giants Brawl. Some dude was like, "Yeah, it was Eli Manning who possibly told him this." Now I personally do not think it was Eli who said that.
Well,
It wasn't. I could tell you who it was. I read who it was. I don't remember who it was, but I'll find it. So go on, Mike. I'll Google it.
okay, yeah, I didn't even hear that, and I figured it was Eli because aren't like the whole family from Louisiana, right? Ain't they from that area, like down
Yeah,
south,
I'm pretty sure it's
Yes.
like,
right? So
yeah,
maybe it was Eli kind of
Yeah,
spread.
yeah. I mean, Eli, Peyton, Cooper, they all grew up in Louisiana because Archie played for the Saints.
Right, right.
how's Archie anyway? What is he up to? Because like you always see like Peyton and Eli, you never see Archie anymore though.
Shit, the last time I seen him was like trying to work that deal with San Diego, move from like San Diego to the Giants. That's the last time I heard of him. I mean, really, like you don't say anything.
So it was Steve Bartowski, number one draft pick. Steve Bartowski. Joe Burrow should pull an Eli on the Bengals, and then he said, "I do have leverage." So Steve Bartowski, I guess, is his name. I'm not familiar with him. I don't know how good he was, but apparently that's his name.
All right, well, yeah, that's kind of odd because like when the reason I bring this up is because like when I go back and I look at like what Eli did just in terms of he was drafted by the Chargers at 1, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna play for this franchise. It really you could basically alter that one move by Eli kind of altered like the course of NFL history because imagine right now if we were sitting here in 2020 and talking about the retirement of Philip Rivers, let's say, or the Giants moving on from Philip Rivers. I mean, would Philip Rivers have 2 rings? Would we see Ben Roethlisberger with the 2 rings? What would
Actually,
Eli be like?
so I'm not sure if this is like widely known or not, but the Giants only drafted Philip Rivers to make that trade because the Chargers draft board was Eli, Rivers, Roethlisberger. But for the Giants, it was Eli, Roethlisberger, Rivers. So had Eli said, "Sure, I'll play for San Diego," we would actually have Big Ben, and the Steelers would actually have Philip Rivers. So it really would have changed the entire course of the NFL because there's a chance we actually might have gotten 2 rings with Big Ben, but I think the Steelers, I don't know, I don't know. It's really weird to think about because maybe none of them ended up with Super Bowls at that point. Who knows?
That alternate universe, man. That's some weird shit to go downhill, man.
Yeah.
Definitely go down the rabbit hole with that one. But yeah, I tell you, man, having Big Ben like in a giant uniform, that size quarterback, that arm strength in the cold weather, it wouldn't be that bad. You know what I mean? But I would prefer Philip Rivers because Philip Rivers is a guy I like to root for. It's weird. Like Big Ben's okay, but I like rooting for Philip Rivers. It's
Oh,
just a weird thing I have. But I mean, it couldn't work out for us better. You know. Sorry,
oh,
Philip.
definitely.
He didn't get even the correct send off. He was just like, "Yo, you're out of here."
Yeah.
He came in and found this pink slip on the locker. Like, all right, you're gone. Like, can you
I'm
imagine
I'm
working in
really
an organization like that? God.
Yeah, that's terrible, and that's exactly why Eli said no. But I'm really surprised to hear that you're like a Philip Rivers fan. I can't stand Philip Rivers, man. That dude's always crying and complaining and
I'll,
screaming at the refs. I
I'll
can't
tell you.
stand that.
I'll tell you why. Because he don't curse and he has like 15 kids. That guy's hilarious.
See, here's my biggest issue with Phil Rivers, right? Is that everyone is like, yeah, this guy's one of the best quarterbacks of this generation, and I believe that he was a top 10 guy, but like I never saw like the elite potential because I get like he had guys like Antonio Gates and I'm sorry, LaDainian Tomlinson, and you contrast that with Eli, right? Eli's does not like Eli's never had a future like a Hall of Famer, a future Hall of Famer like on his team. Like I put this poll out on Twitter on Thursday night, right before I flew out from the NFL Brawl account. I was like, hey, so who would you put in the Hall of Fame? And it was basically like versus Eli Manning and Philip Rivers. And I was surprised at how many people voted for Eli Manning because I was like, yeah, he's got like the 2 Super Bowl rings. Like I was so surprised that the ratio was that much because a lot of people today are like, yeah, well, Philip Rivers is like 123 and 101 in terms of wins and losses, but Eli's just got a 500 record. But I think like at the end of the day, if we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about Super Bowl rings, like Eli's, Super Bowl rings trump all in my opinion.
Without a doubt. I mean, that's what we play for. That's what football teams are striving to get. They're just trying to get Super Bowls, and Eli's got 2 of them, and he was the main reason why we got both of them. So, I mean, Philip Rivers didn't get any, and I don't think Ben Roethlisberger was an MVP for either of the Super Bowls that he won. I think it was Hines Ward and Santonio Holmes, if I'm not mistaken. I think receivers won it in both of those games. Eli won it in both of his. I mean, he's got 2 Super Bowls, so he had the best career out of any of them. You can maybe argue Roethlisberger's was just as good, but Super Bowls trump all. So, I mean, Eli definitely had a better career than Philip Rivers. I don't even think it's close.
I think Eli had he had a couple great teams that won the Super Bowl. Like Philip and Big Ben, they had great offenses. So fantasy football purposes, like these guys maybe put up more points than Eli just because of their offense they had. I'm like, Eli wasn't blessed with the offense like that every year. It just wasn't like that in New York. But I don't know. And that's my opinion on that. I mean, Eli, he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, no doubt.
Yeah, so I just pulled the poll up, right, that I put out about a week ago, and so 70% of people said that they would put Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame over Philip Rivers. Specifically, I guess it's because of like the 2 Super Bowl rings. I mean, that's kind of a big ratio, and we got like 200 something votes on that too.
They're the smart people. The other half voted against Eli are just dumb. They don't know football. They shouldn't even be allowed to vote.
That's true. I think the ratio should have been even higher. I think it should have been 100%.
Absolutely, 110%. Because I would have voted like 99 times.
All right, so this was also the night, and I know Anthony, you weren't present in the chat, but like, so for the Brawl, we got like 3 or 4 chats, and this was so our guys over at the Title Town Brawl started talking. So like the Bears and Packers fans got into a beef, and I know Mike was there. And then like I jumped in and we just started going in on these guys with regards to like Eli Manning and whatnot, how many Super Bowl rings he has. And one of the guys was like, okay, so Giants, bro, by your logic, like Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like Eli's got more Super Bowl rings than Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. Or Eli's got the same amount of Super Bowl rings that like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees have combined.
I don't know why these guys were tweeting in that group text the other day. Like, didn't they tell like Roseanne never to tweet when she's on Ambien? We should tell those guys the same thing because they weren't making any sense.
No, you know what's funny, right? Okay, so it got to a point where I just started going in on the Packers guys, and I started using like Aaron. So I was making fun of Aaron Rodgers, just using Eli Manning gifs.
Yeah, it was like 10 in a row.
And I swear the Bears fans loving it, but that's how we always do here at the Brawl. Is we're called the Brawl Network for a reason, and we do not back down from defending / listening to anyone's opinion. So if you got takes and you want to challenge us, like I said, just hit us up on slide into like Anthony's DMs for some reason, or even mine, and we'll discuss it, right? But anyway, so moving on, we got free agency started. Well, the new league year starts in a month, right? March, I think it's 17th or 18th. And so
I think it's 16th you could start talking to free agents, and then 18th the league year starts, right?
Yeah, but like everyone knows that never happens because like you're going to have these guys at the combine next week and everyone's going to be talking. Like I've seen so much combine junk now. I'm like, wait, what is like going on? So I remember last year at this time, like Jason Lockenfora was like, oh, Derek Carr's not going to be in what's now Las Vegas in 2020. And so this dude pegged the Giants to be like the fit because I guess this was assuming they weren't going to draft any dimes, but anything and everything that JLC says, usually the opposite happens. But just so free agency is going to be fun. And Anthony, I know you had an article out about Kyle Van Noy, right?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a big fan of Kyle Van Noy. I think that should be right near the top of the Giants' free agent targets.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think? Like, who are you looking at in free agency?
I do like Kyle just because in the New England link. I do not want Josh Norman. I started reading on Twitter. Everybody's like, "Oh, maybe Josh Norman is Gettleman ties."
Oh,
I'm like, I hate that dude with a passion. I don't even care if he retweets the show. Like, I'll still hate him. Um, but another guy that Ants talked about is Byron Jones from Dallas. I mean, that's the guy we got to get. We need like a cornerback, a veteran in there to lead these young guys because we got a young group. And, I don't think Janora Shanko was the greatest of veteran leaders last year. So we need a guy in there like him.
Yeah, I was thinking this, right? Like, this team's got like 60 million cap right now, but they can certainly make a hell of a lot more and even get up to like that 75-80 million dollar range when you do cut guys like Solder and Alec Ogletree, which I think are going to be the first two to go. But I just thought to myself, I'm like, so some people are going to pound the table for guys like Jadeveon Clowney and Dante Fowler Jr. And what they're going to be sit there and say is like, oh, getting one of those guys is going to be successful free agent period. But I thought to myself, like, I'm more so thinking that even if you don't have to have a successful free agent period, your free agency period is not successful if you sign one of the big guys. You can sign Kyle Van Noy or someone like Byron Jones, for example. And I think that those would be like the biggest moves of your offseason, which would make you a winner in free agency because you're addressing two needs, especially the linebacker need, that this team sorely lacked in 2019.
yeah. So the reason that I love Kyle Van Noy so much is because he kind of plays two positions. He played off-ball linebacker the first 6 years of his career, and then he just switched to edge rusher. And he probably had a career year as an edge rusher. So he's a really, really good pass rusher, and he was always a great pass rusher as an off-ball linebacker. But he can do it all. He knows Joe Judge. He has a great relationship with Joe Judge. And if he's an edge rusher or linebacker, whichever one, he's going to come at a fraction of the cost of some of the big names because he's a little bit older. I think he's around 29 years old. It's about 10.5 million per year is his projected salary, and that's you compare that to the 18 or so that you're going to have to give to Yannick Ngakoue or someone like that. I mean, Kyle Van Noy, considering he had 60 pressures this past year as an edge rusher, and he still had 36 as an off-ball linebacker in 2018. I mean, you're going to get the pass rush out of him, but you're also going to get elite run defense. So that's why I just think he could transform our defense. I mean, pass rush, run defense, he'll do it all, and he's also a great locker room guy, and I think that he's a perfect fit, and he's kind of a bargain deal there at 10.5 million.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see like who they go after free agency because then you could kind of tell like, all right, maybe this is the direction of the draft, because we got these position on lock. Maybe we go this route. If they don't sign an offensive tackle in free agency, you know where we're going. Like the hands down. So I'm pretty excited about free agency, especially with the cap we have.
Oh, I would. So this is a good year to get that free agent middle linebacker because, like, so we mentioned Kyle Van Noy, and then there's a couple other names that are going to hit the market, like Corey Littleton, Joe Schobert from the Browns. Those are a couple guys that are legitimately, I think, those two gonna end up being much cheaper than Van Noy. Nick Kwiatkowski and Danny Trevathan, two Bears linebackers. I think that I would not personally go with Kwiatkowski because I've seen him up close. I mean, he's physical. He's the linebacker that's the dude can blitz, right? He's an ideal fit in that Patrick Graham scheme, but he just lacks the speed. And you already know that teams are going to eat at that speed all day long, especially in the NFC East where you got guys like quarterbacks like Carson Wentz. So Kwiatkowski's someone I'm wary of. I think that one dark horse name that could really come in when healthy, if he's healthy, right, is without a doubt it's going to be Danny Trevathan because, like, we've seen him, he's playing at a high level in Denver. He's proven he can be the quarterback of the defense. Played, injuries and suspensions kind of shortened his time here in Chicago, coming off a dislocated elbow. But when he was healthy in 2018, he was playing like one of the best linebackers in the game, I thought.
Yeah, lights out, man. Especially like, right, man, we need a guy that could cover on the back end. Can't have just guys blowing right past our linebackers all the time. Very frustrating.
Yeah, and so my article is over at Empire Sports Media. Throughout the last week, I've just been breaking down free agents every single day, just picking a new guy and writing about him, seeing how they fit with the Giants. So a few other names that I'm looking at, I wrote why they shouldn't go after Josh Norman. So I agree with you, Mike. I think that would be terrible. Chris Harris Jr., I think, is somebody that they should look at. He's a veteran. He wouldn't be a long-term purchase, but he would be an elite slot cornerback, and we definitely could use one of those. And he's also a pretty good locker room guy, so he would help DeAndre Baker and them take their games to the next level. And then I also wrote about Vic Beasley today, and Vic Beasley's super interesting. I think we mentioned him on one of our previous podcasts because the Falcons just announced we're not going to re-sign him, which I thought was a little funny and kind of weird, but he's a former first-round pick, and if you go online and you look at, if you watch him in college and if you read his draft profile heading into the draft of 2015, there was an AFC executive who said he's like the prototypical 3-4 outside linebacker. That's exactly what you want from that guy. And they said he should be a 3-4 outside linebacker, an edge rusher. And then he gets drafted by the Falcons and he plays 4-3 defensive end for the first 5 years of his career. One of those years he had 15 and a half sacks, but everything else was 8 or 5 sacks or 4 sacks. So he was super inconsistent and he really wasn't what he was all. It wasn't what he should have been. He should have been a really good player. He was drafted 8th overall, but you got to think maybe he just needs like a change of scenery. Maybe he just needs to be put into a 3-4 defense where he's allowed to be a stand up off the edge outside linebacker and get after the quarterback. And the Giants, I think that they should actually go after Vic Beasley. A couple weeks ago I said no, but now that I think about it, put him in that 3-4 base defense in that multiple scheme with Patrick Graham. Let him rush the passer. He's going to be cheap because he hasn't been that good over the past 3 years. He really hasn't been. So maybe they can get him on a 1-year prove-it deal, but I think his estimated market value is about $7.5 million annually, and that's not that expensive for an edge rusher. So he's still young, 27 years old. Vic Beasley, I think, is real great under the radar grab that the Giants should definitely look at.
Well, that's going to be the defining characteristic of Judge. Like, if he could take guys like Vic Beasley on that got pretty much cut from their former teams and make them like all pro again. And, like you said, getting into like a new environment, maybe a new defense, maybe that sparks something. If Judge does this, I mean, Giant fans are gonna love what they have, man.
Yeah, and I think so some fans just first off, because Vic Beasley is interesting because I think that he is going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere this offseason. I don't know where it's going to be, but he's going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal. What that will do is basically you're just taking a chance on this guy because you're like, look, we're not going to commit to you long-term until you do prove to us that you are ready to go ahead and be the pass rusher that notched, 15 and a half sacks in 2016, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, so if he comes in and balls out, you have your long-term edge rusher, right? And I think that you sign Beasley, you're creating tons of competition in what is already a relatively young edge rusher room. And Vic would obviously come in and just be the undisputed leader of that group. But I would still look for them to add someone in the draft just because you can never have too many guys who rush the quarterback. Let's be honest. I mean, we've seen teams that they have these teams today, right? I think they have their 1 and 2 guys at edge rushers, and then there's always that third rotational guy. And oftentimes, that third rotational guy, nobody talks about, but he goes out and he makes some plays.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you 2 teams that I can think of that have exactly that. It'll be the 2007 New York Giants with Strahan, Tuck, and OC, and it'll be the 2011 New York Giants with Tuck, OC, and JPP. So you're exactly right about that. You got to have at least 3 guys who just get after the passer like that, and that's like the formula to win Super Bowls. We've seen it twice, and so I think re-signing Marcus Golden should be a priority, drafting somebody, and then signing somebody too. I think get 3 really good pass rushers in there and watch how this defense just immensely upgrades from that.
Right. Everybody else gets better if your front guys are rushing the passer and have them, not let guys run around the back end all day. People that watch the game, understand the game, know that. You need guys to hit the quarterback, and protect your quarterback. That's it. Hog mollies all around. Everybody gets hog mollies.
I will say this regarding Josh Norman. The dude's washed up. I mean, I never viewed him. I mean, I never viewed him as being like an elite NFL corner. I just thought he was one of those guys that, like Ron Rivera was a smart defensive mind and developed him. But like you saw once he got away from Ron Rivera, he was like in Washington, it was like, yeah, no, not gonna happen. Like he just never the same in Washington. And what's so telling about it is the fact that like, so Rivera made Norman, and Rivera gets in Washington this offseason, and one of the first like major moves that they make is moving on from Norman. I seriously think that like had Norman basically had Rivera still like Norman, that they would not have released him despite like Washington's cap situation. And just the fact that they are going over, there's significant roster turnover there. I think like for a coach, I mean, you get a chance to reunite with a player a second time, you're probably going to keep that guy.
100%, man. Rivera, like that's the way Norman's, was able to succeed because of Rivera's like defensive, mindset, man. Like he made that guy, like you said. Like he went on to all these other teams, and now he's a bum. He was always a bum in Carolina. He was just well hidden. Because talking about that Odell and Norman fight that just got me really upset.
So hold on, who would you take if they had to refight again? Like who would you take, Mike, Odell or Josh?
Man, I probably have to get in the middle of them both, knock them out now. Dude, it was like, come on, man, take your helmets off and just start swinging. Like, why are you gonna go back and forth for like 3/4 of football? Like, just get it over with. But yeah, I would take Odell, man. I still love Odell.
I do too. I'd take Odell, and I'll also say with Josh Norman, the reason that he's not with Carolina anymore, and the reason he went to the Redskins is because of Dave Gettleman. So there were a lot of people who were clearly uneducated on the topic saying, oh, he's got a connection to Gettleman. That's not a connection that you want. Okay, I'll read this quote from Josh Norman, and this is why I hate Josh Norman, because this was during the season before the Giants had played the Redskins the first time. So this is when I think Dave Gettleman was still dealing with his health issues, and Josh Norman had this to say about him. This is what I feel about the situation in him. If you really want to be honest, every time I see him, I really want to smash his face in the grass. That's how I really feel about it. So it takes a real tough guy to say that he wants to smash a 67-year-old cancer survivor's face into the ground. I mean, Josh Norman, just a real scumbag. I would hate to see him on any team, man. I'm ready for him to retire at this point. I mean, what is he, 32? Just let's get rid of him.
Absolutely. Agree, 100%. What a dirtbag.
Right. Oh no, man! I'm pretty sure like Corey Webster or Aaron Ross, right? Like those guys could still play at a higher level than Josh Norman, and that like I know I'm sounding like a homer right now, but that I firmly believe in. I think like okay, so I grew up watching Charles Tillman, inventor of the peanut punch. I firmly believe that like if there's one cornerback that's had an impact on cornerbacks in this generation, it's Charles Tillman, and like none of these guys like Richard Sherman or any of them like come close to like the cornerbacks you had like in the mid 2000s.
Oh, dude, the peanut punch, yeah, dude. It seemed like every week he was punching the ball out of somebody's hands. It was ridiculous, man, to watch. That Bears defense was like incredible, man.
Yeah, and Bears got Kyle Fuller now, which ain't like too significant of a drop off, but I would still take 50-year-old Peanut Tillman over Kyle Fuller any day of the week. No disrespect to Kyle though.
All you Chicago guys do.
Of course, man. But anyway, so this is gonna be a fun free agency because like when your team's got a hell of a lot of money to spend, you can come up with a million different scenarios. But my issue is this. I know Anthony kind of said this back in like December, January when we were looking ahead to the offseason. The issue is that Gettleman can be like the smartest guy ever, or he can be like the biggest moron on the planet ever.
Yeah, he can, and we'll see because, this offseason, that's really been Gettleman's biggest weakness is handing out contracts in free agency because he's handed out a few really bad ones. Patrick Omameh, Jonathan Stewart, and we could probably say Nate Solder too. So it's going to be interesting. Is he going to go for the big name, make all these big splash signings, and try and like break the bank for a player like Byron Jones and Ngakoue? Or is he going to just bargain bin shop? Or I mean, we're going to see. It's Gettleman, so I really don't know what he's going to do. I don't think anybody does. He's a little bit of a wild card. He's kind of hard to trust. But I'm just going to hope and pray that he makes the right signings. He doesn't overpay too hard for anybody. And I would like to see him secure one of those big names, make at least one big splash signing, just because we've got all this money. It would be fun to watch. So I'm excited. I hope Gettleman does his best.
I hope all his free agent picks come out to be studs and stars, so I could just
Hall
go
of
on
Famers.
people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I will go after people like Kim Jones. I would be relentless. Can't wait. I can't
Why
wait
Kim
to get
Jones? Why her specifically, Mike?
she said something of it. She was questioning like Gettleman during a press conference, like really hard, like going after him. Like I was like, man, you're kind of mean. Like damn, this New York media. Like if I was to get him out, I wouldn't even take it. I'd probably throw a microphone at her or something like that. It would drive me crazy.
See, if I was Gettleman, right, I would I would just get up and walk out because I know like the rules state you gotta have like the GM's gotta meet with like the media certain times a year and like all that kind of stuff. But like we've seen coaches and whatnot just end the press conference after like 30 seconds, man. Like I seriously hope
Yeah.
Joe Judge does that. Like one of his first few weeks in the regular season because like we saw Bill Belichick do it all the time. I really hope Joe Judge does that because if there's anyone right now that could come in and like set the tone with the New York media straight and be like F you guys, it's Joe Judge in my opinion.
Oh yeah, the first stupid question he gets, I hope he just like out. I think we deserve that as fans. We need to have a guy behind the microphone like that. Just stand up for him, man. Enough of this.
So
Ben
I'll
Schumer.
give I'll give a little bit of a different perspective here. I would like it if they talk to the media more, since I'm kind of striving to be part of that media. I want them to be. I mean, definitely, I want to see Gettleman appear more in the media because he goes forever without answering any questions, and it really just irks me because we took months to get an explanation on Leonard Williams, things like that. So, but I would like it if Joe Judge does lay down the hammer, if he gets a dumb question, just say, I'm not answering that because Shermer would just go, well, I think there's things going on behind the scenes that are real good. And he would sound like a putz. So just say no, don't answer it. Just say it's stupid. Don't answer the question. New Jersey media needs to be better, ask better questions, and then we could take it from there. But they should keep the rate that they're talking to the media and expand upon it, make it more. Just don't answer the dumb questions.
The first dumb question he gets, I hope he gets up and headbutts the guy right. Bang, just sits him down, man.
Anthony, I for real
Yeah.
hope you do not like ask any dumb questions if once you get up there Joe Judge is like still there, okay?
Oh God,
Which he's probably gonna be, man.
Yeah, this episode of the podcast is gonna come back to bite me because I'm gonna get up there one day and I'm gonna ask a really dumb question and then I'm gonna see this soundbite all over Twitter for like a week.
We knew it. We called it.
All right, so anyway, I was traveling to, as I mentioned, New York this week, right? And or the New York, New Jersey, it's all the same damn thing because you literally, like, you cross over to George Washington Bridge, and you're in New York, and you can see the skyline when you're on the New Jersey Turnpike. Which, by the way, the traffic on that thing is freaking annoying. But so I'm at the airport, right? And guess who I got seated next to? Eagles fans, the whole and I'm like, damn, dude, these people I cannot deal with.
Well, I'll tell you, I've only had one pleasant interaction in public with an Eagles fan. The rest of them have just they've been dicks. They've just been not nice people to me. And I'm always like, no wonder you're an Eagles fan. Like, that explains it. Like, I remember I think it was at Wendy's with some friends, and we were just, like, getting stuff in the line, and he just, like, would you hurry up? And we turn around. My friend was a Cowboys fan, too. So, like, we've got our differences, but we both turn back, see this guy wearing an Eagles hat. We're like, no wonder. And then we took our sweet time ordering our nuggets.
They're the worst, man. They're the absolute worst. He's like if he was sitting next to you on the plane the whole ride, I'm like I would have probably tried to open up the window and like push him out like mid-plane. Like get out of here. You don't deserve to be in first class with me. I hate Eagles, man. All the Eagles fans, you're right. They're just the worst, man.
No, so here's what happens. I was sitting okay, so I'm sitting in my seat. They're like sitting next to me, and I wasn't wearing like anything that would have gotten that would have given you the indication that I'm like a credentialed reporter or anything. But I was on my laptop the whole time, and I'm just like watching some draft tape, making notes, etc., that kind of stuff, right? And so the dude sitting to the left of me, he asked me, he's like, "Oh, like you a big NFL fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, So we just start talking, and I was like, so naturally got to the point where they're like, "Yeah, we're from Philly and we're Eagles fans and whatnot." And I kid you not, like I didn't say anything like, "Yeah, I do a Giants podcast," until the freaking very end, but. For like 20 minutes, right? These guys were yapping away in my ear and like, oh yeah, like Daniel Jones this and just absolutely trashing the Giants. And I got thinking, right? I was like, yo, like what the hell did Donovan McNabb do? And like what is Carson Wentz done? And I hate it. You know what I hate the most is when they sit there and they're like, oh well, like Carson Wentz won a Super Bowl. Like, yo, first off, he didn't win the Super Bowl because he was injured. He didn't even play in it. Like, who won the Super Bowl? Nick Foles did, not Carson Wentz.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. Their quarterback who's made out of glass and has accomplished little to nothing, and their other quarterback who's made it to Super Bowl and lost and accomplished little to nothing. But sure, they can sit there and talk about our quarterbacks. Yeah, right. Why don't they just go out into the streets, set a few more cars on fire, and eat a little bit more horse poop, and then they can talk to us. Maybe.
Right. They're lucky they won that Super Bowl, man. Fucking joke. Who's the guy sitting next to you? Was it that guy Gritty that's all over the internet? Like he's kind of like orange. He's from Philly, right? That guy he's easily recognizable. You should have name his name. It was fucking Grizzly.
Yeah, I don't think it was him, right? But anyway, whoever it was, so they were just straight up annoying because, bro, they're just straight up annoying, right? Because like even on campus here, okay, there's one dude in my class who's a freaking diehard Eagles fan. He's always talking to the guy next to me, right, about football, and like they just don't know when to shut up, because like as a fan, you gotta like know how to love your team and hate your team, but those guys like. They are like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just does not stop, man.
Yeah, they're relentless. They're all day. It's all those Philly cheesesteaks they stuff in their mouth. That's where they get all that energy to talk shit.
Yeah, man, they're the worst.
So I know, like, last week we trash talked Cowboys fans. This week we're trash talking Josh Norman and the Eagles, right? If I had to pick right now, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, Eagles fans got to be more annoying than Cowboys fans, and that's like me being generous to Cowboys fans.
I completely agree. I cannot stand Eagles fans. That's the Eagles and their fans together. There's nothing in this world that I hate more than that. That is literally just, it kills me, man. I've got so many bad memories with the Eagles. I hate it. I just don't get me started. We gotta wrap up soon, so I don't want to go on too long. But just
no, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Listen, all right. I'll tell one Eagles. I'll tell two. Okay, and I never have breakdowns watching football, but I've had two, and it's because of the Eagles. So I really hate the Eagles because you guys know which one. Deshaun Jackson, that punt return. I lived on Long Island back then. I was about like 9, 10 years old. Soon as that happened, I ran upstairs and just cried all night. I cried. I was in so much pain. I was so angry. And then years later,
I cried. I was 30 years old at the time, and I went upstairs and I cried.
Yeah, and then the more recent, I'm 17, and this is my reaction. It was when was it? When Odell made that catch, he did the dog piss thing, and then we came all the way back, and they hit a 61-yard field goal to win the game. So I just remember, I was like, there's no way they make this. But I'm standing up because I'm like all scared. I'm like, oh, what if they make it? I'm like, there's no way they're going to make it. I'm telling my mom, no way. They make it. I take this water bottle in my hand. I spiked it on the ground so hard. I ran out, slammed the door, went in my room, ripped the jersey off my shirt, and I think I threw a temper tantrum. I was 17 years old, and I was like so embarrassed by myself afterwards. But like, man, I hate the Eagles. But you know what? I turned it to a positive because I took that moment. I wrote about it. That was my college essay. Here I am in my dorm. That moment got me into college, so I'm super stoked about it.
That was your turning point. After that, after that 61-yard field goal, I killed a mailman. Like, mailman. Man, listen, guys, I would do a 24-hour straight podcast of just knocking the Eagles, and then whatever benefit money we get we use to try to close their stadium or just build a jail cell.
Oh my dude! Okay, so I've heard weird I've heard weird things about the link, right? And everyone's like, it's a tough place to play. But I'll be honest, like every freaking time I see it, like on the, on TV or whatever, like it just straight up looks like a freaking dump to me, man.
It is.
I agree, and I think a lot of that is just their ugly colors, their ugly team, their ugly fans. It's just ugly.
It's one
All
big,
of Yep.
one gigantic dump you can't flush.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting offseason in Philly too, because like I know their number one targets are gonna be, at least in the offseason, are gonna be figuring out how to get how to go about like adding weapons for Carson Wentz, because that was seriously a freaking issue in 2019. But like overall, man, like going into 2020, I don't believe that this team is like as like Philly. They're not going to be as strong as like anyone's predicting them to be, even with like a healthy Carson Wentz, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna go. Okay, so if I had to give like predictions right now, I'm gonna say like Giants 9-7, Cowboys and Eagles can both fight for like 8-8, and then the Redskins. Well, yeah, they're talented, but they're not like super talented. Like they got a good front seven, man. It's a decent defense, but Redskins. It's all gonna depend on what happens with Dwayne Haskins, who was garbage in 2019, by the way.
yeah, I mean, he was pretty bad. I'll say I'm not that confident in the Giants yet. I think we're going to see some improvement, but not a lot yet. Still we're a very young roster, a lot of holes, young quarterback, new coach. So I'm going to say around 6-10. I think we'll be second to last in the division. I think the Redskins will be below us, and I think the Cowboys are going to win the division just because they usually do, just because they benefit from being in a lousy division. And then I think probably the Eagles will be in second. It'll probably be the Cowboys at like 10-6, and then you got 8-8 Eagles, and then 6-10 Giants, and then 5-11 Redskins probably. But I'll say I don't think any of the NFC East teams have any chance of winning a Super Bowl next year. Definitely not. But if there's anyone who's going to do it, it's going to be us, man. We're going to come out of nowhere, and we're going to do it. We're going to go 16-0 somehow, like Mike was about to predict, and he's going to be right because it's Mike Stradamus. He's no Stradamus in the flesh, and we're going to go 16-0 and win the Super Bowl.
You're right, 100%. You're 100% correct. The Giants will be 16-0.
Mm-hmm.
The other teams are just their only wins will be because they're beating each other. And then besides that, they all could just suck it. I mean, I hate all of them. Like Dallas, I'm telling you, Mike McCarthy's going to go into Dallas and ruin that team. Watch, they're going to be
I
so
hope so.
functional.
Oh, definitely. Well, I'm not confident in McCarthy the second time around because, like, I get he had success with like Marvin Rodgers, but when you're in Dallas, you don't do it your way. You do it the Jerry Jones way. And if you don't do it the Jerry Jones way, like you're gonna be gone. It's gonna be funny, right? Okay, so I'm really gonna be looking forward to Jason Garrett helping put together a super explosive offense, and Cowboys fans just being like, "Yo, where the hell was this the 10 years that you were here?"
Yeah, I mean, they always did have a top 10 offense with Garrett, but it was never like, going to win them a Super Bowl, obviously. I just don't think that he was a good head coach, but I think he's going to be awesome for us as an offensive coordinator. A lot of pre-snap motion, likes to get a big body receiver into the game, and knows how to get a running back to rush for 1,500 yards every year. So I think Saquon should be happy, and I'm really looking forward to the next season, man. It's going to be exciting.
Barkley, MVP. I'm telling you, he might have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, speaking of which, where's Barkley at?
He's sleeping, man. He's resting up. I was talking to him about the Giants way too much tonight, man. He had enough.
You bring him on the podcast soon. Talk to him about the Giants, or you just have him like give his insight, man.
I will definitely bring him in here.
All right, y'all, let's get out of here. As always, before we get out of here, make sure you check the network out. We're sponsored by Fanatics. That's www.thebearsbrawl.com/fanatics. We know baseball season's kicking off, so if you're a Yankees or Mets fan, go get yourself some new gear. I mean, go get yourself some new Giants gear, too, because you can never rep your team too much. But follow me on Twitter at Usaid Koshal. Follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Be on the lookout for his articles for Empire Sports Media, too. And then follow Mike Trainer on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT. Just remember, guys, it's not TRAINER, it's TRAINOR. Please spell his name correctly, otherwise he's going to come at you like Antonio Pierce used to. But that's going to do it for us. And make sure you're following the podcast at Giants Bro. We'll be back next week talking more scouting combine and then previewing some more NFL free agency stuff. And maybe, just maybe, if you guys give us suggestions on Twitter, maybe we'll trash talk like who are we going to trash talk next week, guys?
Maybe we can go in on some Patriots fans. I have a friend of mine who's a Patriots fan, and he can be pretty annoying sometimes. So maybe I'll send him the link and we'll trash talk him a bit.
All right, awesome. Sounds good. So we'll trash talk them next week. But from me, from Anthony, from Mike, it's been a fun one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you.